Hello, good evening, Ayushree.
Good evening, Chitra. Good evening, Preetha. Good
Good
evening,
evening.
Priya. Good morning, Priya, actually.
Good
For
morning.
you, it would be morning.
Yes, it
So good evening,
is.
everyone. So thank you very much for joining us today, and thanks a lot to Chitra, Preetha, and Priya for taking out time from your schedules to really come to our platform and do this series today. And thank you to all the viewers who have joined us: Indrani, Aarti, Hira, Shilpa, Mansi. Akil, everyone, thanks so much. We will be having more people who will be joining us, and we are also live on all our social media channels. So, in case you guys want to share the live links for for LinkedIn, YouTube, please feel free. Akil would be sharing the links on the chat box here. So that's another option for you guys to share it across your networks. So yes, thanks again. And this is our Women in Sales series, the beginning of the series, and today is day one. We did the launch last week, and we saw a lot of members from both the Sales Mentoring and the Vidphone community join us on the launch. And Preeta, we had the opportunity to hear from you also on the launch. And thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing more from you today. And Priya, we are having you for the first time on the platform, so really looking forward to hear your thoughts. So Chitra, the agenda for everyone to know would be that me and Chitra would be co-hosting this session. So we'll just take a few minutes to introduce us, why this initiative, and our speakers for the session, and then we have a few very straightforward questions to our both our speakers who are seasoned sales professionals today, to get their views and the entire idea. I have heard this a lot, and Chitra and I also have been discussing, why are we doing this? Why is a Women in Sales series required? Obviously, because the straightforward answers would be, we still feel there's very less representation of women in sales. We still see the numbers, and Chitra very rightly on the last session had mentioned some key figures where she had said 35 to 40% would be in the entry level for women, only about 20% in the mid level, and maybe less than 10% is the number of sales professionals in the leadership roles. So there's certainly these numbers point towards a need, and we feel by hearing stories of how Preeta, Priya, and Chitra, people like Chitra, have had their journey in sales. Other women, even if we can impact one woman today by this session, it's a win for us. If they can feel that confident enough to join this by hearing your story. So frankly, that's the main reason why we are doing this. And as part of Vidphone, I would just take a few minutes to introduce Vidphone, and then hand it over to Chitra to introduce the Sales Mentoring community. So we at Vidphone, we are a hybrid work suite where we give you a stack of tools for your customer generation and your employee engagement journey. And all these are based on video communications. So for us, we feel for people who are in sales for company, and every company needs sales, right? Any business, the sales, we feel we can be a catalyst to your growth by helping you increase your sales and marketing efforts. So that is what we do at Vidphone. And Preeta, lovely to have you. I would just introduce both Preeta and Priya briefly, but please feel free to add anything, Preeta and Priya, while you guys start speaking. And so yes, thanks Chitra. We have Chitra Singh, who's the chief mentor and founder at Sales Womentoring, and we have collaborated with Chitra to start our Women in Sales series. And today we have two others inspiring women in sales: Priya Sachdev, who's the founder and chief growth officer of Sprouting Shoots, and Pritha Dubey, chief mentor and founder of Success Vitamin, join us today. So before we start the questions for you guys, Chitra, over to you to open a few remarks from your end.
Thank you. You've very eloquently put the reason for which we have this started this series in the forefront. I would just like to add a little bit about the Sales Mentoring community, which is India's first and only community inspiring women to succeed at selling.
Yes.
The purpose of the community is to provide an ecosystem to enable 1 million women to sell with confidence through our three pillars of mentoring, experiential learning, and networking for success. Having said that, I think we straight away dive into the first question. So over to you. I think you have the first set of questions for Pritha. So go ahead. Everyone's
Yes.
waiting to listen to her.
Yes. Yes. So, Preetha, I would, obviously, if my first question would be if you start, obviously, by telling us a little more about you. And that would be followed by my first question to you is why is emotional intelligence, important in sales? I think from the first day I've spoken to Chitra, she has been telling me, you are the expert in this. She has been telling me how beautifully you combine the concepts of emotional intelligence and sales. So, we are very eager to hear from you, Preetha, on that.
Great. So, hello everyone, and thank you all for joining. So, a little bit about me. I have 20 plus years of sales experience. Although right now I am into sales coaching and sales training, but I prefer to introduce myself as a salesperson because that is the only job I know and that is the only job I have done. And I am extremely passionate about everything related to sales. So, having said that, why emotional intelligence in sales? Let us understand how sales works, right? There is a process that each one of us follow. So when we ask people that, what do you do? And if we ask salespeople that, what do you do? They will introduce, oh, I'm into say insurance selling, I'm into pharma selling, I'm into enterprise selling, I am into corporate selling, or and if you look at these job descriptions also that are brought out where people are hiring, there also the thing is experience in B2B sales, experience in B2C sales. These are the things that are highlighted. Now, if we understand how sales happens, there's a science of selling, of course. That is the entire process. The way the B2B selling is approached, the way a B2C selling is approached. But whether I am in a B2B selling, enterprise selling, key account management, I am not going to a brick and mortar building and selling to the building, right? There is a human being sitting across the table whom I have to go and sell. And that human being has emotions. And that human being is listening to you and you are presenting to that person. So there are two emotional beings dealing with each other, transacting with each other, communicating with each other. So, which basically means there is a lot of emotions that also come into play while we are selling. These emotions could be plenty. There is a client who is like, agreeing to whatever you are saying, and you are feeling extremely happy and thrilled, and you're starting jumping. Your body language is also jumping, your face is also jumping. That is also an emotion. Or there is a client who is like just bombarding you, shouting at you, or maybe praising your competitor and demeaning you and humiliating your product, and you are feeling getting all angry. And probably if the person is shouting, and maybe you reach a point where you feel like giving one or two piece of your mind also back to the client. Now these things can also happen because we are all emotional being. How many of us can actually control our emotions? So that is the reason why it is very important to understand that there is a human on the other side, and we need to be emotionally intelligent when we are speaking with a human on the other side, so that we are able to be aware of our own emotions and manage those emotions, and we are able to gauge the other person's emotions and manage the other person as well. So there is a relationship management becomes stronger in that case. So right from building rapport to closing a deal, if the salesperson is also emotionally intelligent, the movement towards from that movement of the funnel, from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, it becomes smoother. And that is why being emotionally intelligent is very important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well said. In fact, I agree with you. Emotions are contagious, and our customers and prospects catch them as we speak. So it's more important to make them feel valued and heard and understood rather than to get your point across. Well put.
Yes.
You have another question, I believe, for Pritha.
Yes, thanks, Preeta, for beautifully putting that. And we keep talking about how today, actually trying to solve the client's problem is more important. Instead of just telling them about your product or service.
Mm.
My follow-up question to you would be a little more related to women, because we are doing this women in sales series, and that's our target audience for today. So, do you think women do have an advantage when it comes to being emotionally intelligent, and how can they leverage this while they are doing sales or they are in this industry?
Okay, so before I answer, just one quick poll on opinions. What do you
Yes,
think? Everyone, Ayushree, Chitra, Priya, what do you think? And everybody else who are listening, you
on
can drop
yes,
in on the
please.
comments. So what do you think? Do women have an advantage on this side of being more high on their EI quotient? So
Yes.
so we said that emotional intelligence is necessary or is important. So do you think, what do you think? Do women have an advantage? I
Yes,
just want
I
to know.
do. Yes, I do think that women do have an advantage, and I think that's a very, positive advantage that we inherently have in us. And yes, over to the others so
All
that
right.
we can also hear.
Sure.
Yes,
Sure.
Mansi says for sure. Hira
Ida
says
also says yes.
have an
EI quotient.
advantage. We
Okay.
can leverage it now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Chitra, Priya, what do you think?
Vidya
So
says yes.
I would say rather than saying men and women, I would look at it more from the fact that all of us have a masculine side and a feminine side within us, right? And as women, we are more in touch with our feminine side because that's just the way our programming is. So some of the basic things, right, like nurturing or empathy or picking up cues, it's not that. So the men who are in touch with their feminine side are better at picking these cues up as well. And with women, because your DNA programming is of a nurturer, some of these things
Mm-hmm.
come
Brought out.
unconsciously.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
are good at picking up vibes. You'll find, and I can tell you, having worked with so many sellers across the globe, women rely still more on gut feel
Yes.
and validate it through the process. But the gut feel is so strong, the intuition, the sixth sense, whatever you'd call it. So I agree with you, Preeta, that this is, there is always emotion in every conversation. Even as we speak right now, the four of us, the smile, the nod, the happiness, the wanting to add your bits of wisdom, all is an emotion. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
yeah.
Chitra, you.
I agree on the same that both masculine and feminine sides are there. But having said that, individuals have different traits. The fact is that being emotional or being emotionally intuitive and displaying your emotions is more encouraged in women. So, therefore, since a young age, when we display our emotions, we are not told to keep them
Yeah.
on the back burner. Whereas with men, maybe they are not encouraged so much, and therefore they are not so much in touch with their emotional side. And in the professional space, if both develop it, emotional intelligence can be developed by both.
Yeah.
And it's not by birth alone, it is also due to conditioning, environment, and the way we bring up our girls and encourage them
Correct.
to display their emotions. That does not necessarily mean that they will manage their emotions better. We display our emotions better and we converse to connect and bond with people. And that's where our edge is, that we form connections. And socially, we are social creatures and more look forward to more social acceptance and bonding than maybe a man. But at the same time, emotional intelligence can be developed in both. And that is how I think Pritha mentors and coaches people in order to develop that. And it is a fact that
Yeah.
emotionally intelligent salespeople have higher revenues, have higher conversions, and have a higher trust factor amongst their customers, which we will talk about going forward. The
Yeah. So
next, yeah,
I'll
you.
just now add to that because most of you are saying, and I'll just build on what you all
Yes.
just said. And I'll pick up the cue from what Chitra said, that as women, at least in our side of the world, we are groomed, or our upbringing has been such that we have it is perceived of us to be emotional, to be nurturing, like Priya also said, to have emotions, to display those emotions, and we express. I think one advantage that women have is they are very free to express. Feel like crying, I'll cry. Give a damn about what others are going to think. I don't have to bear the burden. Oh, I have to stay strong and I have to show some other side of me. um, what we need to understand, however, is because of this upbringing, at least with the Indian women in sales or Indian women, we tend to get a little, we tend to get emotional. Now, there is a difference between being emotionally intelligent and being emotional. So, if I only consider the Indian women landscape, then women do not have an advantage of having a higher EQ. No, they don't, because they tend to get emotional and they tend to get emotionally attached with the deal. So a deal not happening breaks their heart more. Rejection frustrates them more. Any client shouting, screaming, or being rude or unfavorable affects them a lot more, because they get emotionally attached. So there is no advantage as such that women have, that they are higher on EI. No, they don't have that thing. EI, again, I'm going to pick up the cues from both what Priya and Chitra said. Irrespective of the gender, it is something that everyone needs to develop. Both of them kind of, if you don't work on it and if you don't develop in it, you don't have it. Then you are emotional. Everybody can be emotional. Some could be a lot more emotional, somebody will be a lot less emotional, but we all are emotional. But how to be aware of your emotions and manage that emotions, and in sales particularly, one need to practice emotional detachment, and that also comes only when you are very high on your EQ, on your emotional intelligence quotient. Then only you can practice emotional detachment. Otherwise, any sale not happening, you will start crying, or you will start feeling bad, or you will start sulking in the corner. And then this client ही खराब है, organization का product ही खराब है, ये competitive pricing ही नहीं है, you will sulk. Everybody will sulk. Men, women, everyone will do that if you are not strong on EI. So I hope that answers your question. Do not confuse being emotional with
Being
being
intelligent.
high on EI.
Yes.
In fact, this was one of the first few things which was taught to us when I joined ICICI Bank, that a professional behaves as she must and should, and not as she feels.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like throwing the papers at the customer. I feel like telling the customer, why the hell are you shouting at me? But first of all, the customer is not shouting at me. The person is angry with the experience or irritated with the whole bank itself, not at me. So I should not take it personally. And
Yeah.
secondly, I cannot behave as I feel. I should behave like a professional, and that is as I must and should in that situation. That has remained with me for life. And that explains very clearly what Pritha has been saying, that being
Yeah.
emotional and managing emotions are two different things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do you have any other questions for Pritha, or we move on to?
No, Chitra, not at this point, but we have a few questions for Pritha, from not from me, but from our audience. But we'll take those after, we hear from Priya too. But just Pritha, because you have so beautifully, summed it up, and we have something from Hira. She says she loved the perspective on how we get so attached to the deal. The key is to redirect the state of being emotional. So the practice is to detach oneself and look at the deal objectively. So she had the comment there in response to what you had to
Yeah.
tell. So thanks, Hira, for sharing that. And to others, Vidya, Bala, Bhaskar will come back to you guys, and will Preeta would take the questions. So Chitra, over to you, and thanks, Preeta, again. Chitra, over to you. To ask Priya her set of questions so that we can hear from her finally.
Yes, just before I get into that question, Vidya has said managing emotions is part is better than gold. That is empowering. How does one do it? Please elaborate. So, Vidya, we will not have time during this session to elaborate on that. But having said that, both Pritha and I have said that being emotional and managing your emotions are two different things. Women are more emotional creatures, and often it has resulted in us being labeled as illogical or emotional in the professional setup. And this may have cost many a promotion. I already gave you one example of what happened in ICICI Bank. Another was when a customer threw the forms at me, said, "Your bank is useless, your service is useless." I remember crying so much. It was one of my first few jobs. And again, my manager had called me and said, "He's not throwing the forms at you. He's talking about the poor quality of service of the entire bank. It is for all of us to think about how we can reinvent this process to make it a better customer experience." So again, don't take failure personally, don't take rejection personally, and try to manage the emotions from both ends so that you remain cool and calm. This has been said in Mahabharata also, detach from the outcome, right? So a long time ago, I think our ancestors and forefathers knew that this would become the basic tenet of life and selling. So let's move on to Priya.
Yeah.
She's had a very interesting career over 30 odd years, and the only person which I keep saying in every session I have with her, who is senior to me in sales, and I have a lot of respect for her knowledge and experience. Worked across companies globally, and that is why the next question for you is: do you find any difference in the way selling is done in India and in other countries, and especially in the context of women in sales in India and women in sales elsewhere? Do you think that there's a difference in the way we approach selling, in the kind of techniques we use, in the kind of technology we use? How is it different?
Um, so certainly there is a difference.
Yes.
Um, and it's not just about difference in India. I think across the globe, if you kind of look at the map, every market has its maturity. And there are nuances in the market where we pick up certain practices and kind of run with them in our selling styles, if I can call it that. So every market is different. A lot of the things that you do in the US, which is a more matured market, is very different than how we would do it in India. Or how would you sell in Japan or China is very different than how you would sell in Europe. So I think globally, and I in sales, this is one thing I always say, that the good part and the bad part is that there can be no formula, because every sales is unique, every seller is unique, and every time we have that conversation with our clients, it creates a unique conversation, which is why you could have frameworks, you could have structures, you could have guidelines, but you cannot create formulas, because here 2 plus 2 is never equal to 4. uh, Now, if we look at India, India as a market, or just as the genesis of who we are, we've always come with a bit of a scarcity mentality. We've had to queue up to get resources. You move out of the queue, there will be three people who rush in to take your place. It's generally the way we are, because there are so many of us and we've always had limited resources. So I think that kind of shows in our sales as well. We are very competitive. We do not set boundaries. So there will be people who reach out to their clients at whatever time in the day, and they think it's okay to do that. I remember in a workshop, one seller telling me very proudly, "Oh, my client, I have him on my WhatsApp." And that was a thing for him to say, that I have access to my customer on WhatsApp.
Yes.
So we think like that in India, and it's a normal thing to do. Now, bring that to other markets like US or Europe, and privacy is a very, very important thing, right? So you earn the right to even get somebody's direct contact number.
Yes.
Even if you have the number, you will kind of seek permission, ensure you're staying within the boundaries of what is the work hours unless you've been given the permission to go beyond that. So it's a little more formal, and the reason is it's a more matured market. People are more direct in communication. If they don't want to buy, they actually tell you they will not buy, which I so love, which
Yes,
never happens in India, by the way. Nobody tells you they're not going to buy. They're
absolutely.
also they're always, we're thinking about it. Let's come back to you, which they never do. So I think markets are different. Which is where also now talk about women in sales. I think women in sales, while some of us have been there forever, like dinosaur age, but
Maybe.
it is still a newer concept in India. Women still want to take on marketing, inside sales, product
Branding.
marketing,
Branding.
branding. They want to stay in sales, but more at the periphery of the sales function rather than jumping right in and saying,
I am a
I
seller.
love a quota. Like I've
Yes.
had a quota for 112 quarters and I'm still alive and I get excited every time I see my number for the quarter. I don't see too many women there. But again, in matured markets, women in sales have been there for much longer. So, how does that matter? You have more role models because you grew up possibly reporting to a women leader. So, when you have a role model, you just get better at doing what you do because you're learning from their trial and error as well, which is something that we are trying to create at SalesWomentoring. We are trying to bring together the role models so that more women can learn from our trial and errors. And we are hoping that next generation and the next lot of people who come into sales are smarter and don't make the same mistakes we made, right? So I
Absolutely.
think that's where women in sales in India are slightly different than the rest of the world, for sure.
Yeah, sales is not a profession of pride, honor, or respect for women. I was, in fact, told by one such lady in sales, I don't want to mention her name, why don't you change the name of your community from sales mentoring to maybe revenue generating community and so on? Because the new buzzword is revenue, isn't it? Which where marketing, customer success, and sales work together. I said, why would I do that? Because it is a community for women in sales, and I'm proud of the fact that I'm a salesperson, just like Pritha said, and I love selling, and it is our endeavor mutually together to ensure that all women love
Mhm.
sales. Of course, men love sales too. But this community, since it is more to encourage women, I'm talking specifically about women too.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's, yeah, you were saying something?
No, I was saying that that's such an important thing, and not just for women, but that pride in that word of
Right.
sales. I
Yes.
don't know why and when did we lose it? Because I remember when I joined sales, I thought this was a glorified thing, right? Salespeople always got more incentives. They had the flashiest
Absolutely.
cars. They were making more money than anybody else in the organization. And I always wanted to be one of them. They
Yes.
were the center or the engine of the profit center in an organization. And I've always said this to the kids in my family. I don't want to be part of a cost center because I'm spoiled being a
Part of
part
the
of the profit center. I've never had to worry about there won't be enough budget to pay your salary because there is always budget.
for a
If you
salesperson.
are good in sales, there is always budget for your salary, really. Even
Absolutely.
if it's the smallest business, they will find a budget to pay you a salary if you're good in sales because they will
Absolutely.
always need you. Even in the world of chat GPTs and AIs, salespeople will always have a job. So I don't know where we lost the glory of being in sales.
Yeah, the glory, the pride, and the fact that it should be a profession of choice for women. And that's one of the objectives of this community, to position sales as a profession of pride and choice for all women. And hopefully, our experiences and our love for selling makes them feel so. So, Pritha, would you like to add something? I know this is a topic which we can go on talking about forever.
Yes, exactly. So I think I'll if I take over now, then this program will going to be now
Go on
2 hours
till 8 p.m.
long. Yeah, I
Yes. So
completely resonate and I second all the points that you are saying. Um, it's very important for all of us to feel very proud of being in this profession. This is a profession which is a very where we are helping others. We are serving everybody. We are serving the client by helping them, by helping them with a solution that they are looking for. We are serving the organization by bringing money for them and making, the revenues for that organization. And we are serving ourselves by making money ourselves by
absolutely.
through the incentives. So it's like all hands, वो क्या कहते हैं, वो हाथ घी में, या whatever
सारे
that,
हाथ घी पे,
हाँ, whatever that
पांचों
कहावत is.
उंगलियां घी में,
घी
whatever.
में, हाँ, exactly. This is a
Everybody got
Or
it.
profession.
sir kadai.
Or
Yeah, this
everybody
is a
got it.
profession where you can only grow. There is nothing else that can happen with you. So
Yes.
this is, and also remember, any kind of economic recession. I don't know why I am promoting activating for this right now. I'm not hiring, but anytime in any organization there is an economic downturn and a recession, salespeople and high performing salespeople
Are always
are
there.
the only person who will never be touched. Why so? You can do all the maths. Why so? So I
Because it is
think,
a life saving skill.
yeah,
People say
yeah,
it's a life skill. I feel that it is a life saving skill, a business saving skill, and a job saving skill, and thereby saves lives of employees by saving their jobs. So it's
yeah.
a life saving skill. So, having now expressed completely our admiration and love for sales, I think we move on to the last question, unless there's a question from the audience, which is again for anyone can talk about it, where we are talking about so many women who have not chosen sales, and bringing more women, including them in sales, definitely has an impact on the revenues of the organization and the profits of the organization. So we'll start with Priya. That do you feel that inclusive organizations which have more of a higher diversity quotient, they do better, they perform better, and how so?
Absolutely. And I think each one of us has strengths, right? So I also, I'm not saying that we should be all women teams, right? The reason we are saying inclusive, we're saying we all bring strengths to the table. It's just that a lot of organizations have allowed to build this boys club in sales, and it becomes very difficult for women to break into the boys club because it's so hard and ring fenced there, that we have to literally stand there and raise and cheer for women when they break into the boys club. I hope in my lifetime we get to a point where we stop adding women in front of our sales roles and we just call ourselves salespeople. And we don't need to really raise that flag anymore to say, let me in, I'm good in sales, because inclusive organizations, just like an inclusive world, allow us to bring our strengths on the table. And I think it's time where we stop putting labels on who's on the table, be it gender, be it age. I am also an
And I'm a
ageism
topic.
activist.
Yeah.
And I keep saying that, just because you're on the other side of 50 doesn't mean that you are now, don't look for a corporate career. Why don't you do consulting or something? Come on, you know, or the other way around, 30-year-olds who are struggling to bring value on the table because they are 20-year-old or 30-year-old. I think we just need to get to that point where we stop putting labels on what people bring to the table and look at their strengths. If I have a strength in sales and the organization requires it, they shouldn't worry about it's a woman or a man or whoever. Hire for what you need. Don't hire for the label that brings, which is somewhere my kind of a depart of an opinion when people have diversity targets. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you have a target for diversity? I understand we need to be more inclusive, but you don't hire women just because you need women in your team. You hire a resource that you need for what they bring to the table,
Yeah.
irrespective of it's a man or woman or anybody. And I don't know if in my lifetime we'll ever get there, but I do hope and wish we can.
The work we are doing is paving the way for the future generations, for a more equal world, for our sons and daughters. And I do believe that each of us is contributing in our own way to that. And surely we will see the change. I see that in my daughter, and I see that in the younger generation now, that they don't view themselves as girls or women. They view themselves as professionals, bringing talent, capabilities, and merit to the table, and believing that success is a function of capability and merit and not of gender. And if we bring up more girls and boys to believe that, I think the world will change. We're getting there. It's a very beautiful note we have actually arrived at. And if someone else has something to add, Pritha, Ayushree, would you like to add something, or else I think we are now short of time. So, any one thing you would like to add, Pritha?
I think women all there is a role that both the parties have to play. The women also have to play a very important role in working and developing themselves, and believing that sales is a good function. If you continue to believe that sales matlab late night, sales matlab stretch target, sales matlab overnight, if you have all these kind of beliefs, and then you are saying that, oh, no, no, I want a desk
I want.
job, then don't blame. Then there is no point in blaming an organization that you are not hiring women, है ना? So you have to first have that confidence and believe in yourself. And confidence speaks for itself. Irrespective of who you are, the minute you present yourself with that kind of a confidence, I mean, see, we are all women in sales sitting here. Why do you think that we haven't had any setbacks? Why do you think we haven't gone through those discriminations, and why have we risen, or why have we grown, and why have we been successful? um, we also are women, but we did not let that being a woman be a disadvantage for us, right? Why should it be a disadvantage for any one of us? We just presented the confidence. That is what Priya was saying, that it's a talent, it's a skill. You have that skill, you present that with all your confidence. No one is going, though nobody can, you need to shine so much that people just can't avoid you. But if you are avoidable, then you are avoidable. Start taking responsibilities for your success and your failures. World will automatically fall in its place. You just start taking responsibility of everything that you do.
Well said. I believe that too, that success is a function of both
Yeah.
mindset and skill set. And the skill set part we have to work on, and the mindset too. But it's only 20% skill set, because those skills can be taught, including selling. But it's the mindset to
Yeah.
invest time, effort, and be committed to your career goals that a lot of us as women kind of hesitate or step back sometimes, because we put other priorities before us, or we think
Right.
that sales is too difficult, as both of you had mentioned, which is as difficult or as challenging as any other, because there is no role without targets. Even an HR person has targets to recruit employees and to ensure that there is lower attrition. Everyone has targets. It depends on, like Priya said, which side you're on. And we'd rather be on the revenue generating and the high visibility kind of role, which gets promotions and most often becomes CEOs. Again, it's a proven fact that most of the CEOs of all the larger companies in the world, including the MNCs, are salespeople, including our very own Daisy, who is president of Cisco India and SARC. She's the first woman president, and she is a salesperson. So that should tell you closer home if you need another role model. We have so many I can mention, but this is one of them. If anybody has a question, we'd like to take one last question, and otherwise
Yeah,
we will.
we have a question. We have a few questions, but I think most of those, are covered in the discussions, that we have, and what Priya, Preetha, and you have shared, Chitra. But there's one question from Mansi, where she's asking that what are the few practices that you'd recommend both for an organization to support women in sales and for women to navigate their way through internal intense competition, as men are perceived to be better salespeople. She says she's the only salesperson in her organization in India.
Okay. So we'll take very quickly between all of us.
Yes.
Priya, you
Yeah.
go first, and then Pritha, and maybe I will say last, and we'll wind up for the
Yes.
day.
Yeah. So I would pick from what you just said, Chitra. This is a combination of mindset and skill set. So, Mansi, when the rest of the people in the organization believe that men are better salespeople, do you believe the same? Because, and the reason I'm asking you that question is that depending on how you think of your situation, you pick up your strategy. And to me, if you are playing on defense, it gets tougher to win. So if you think you're defending yourself and have to prove your worth because everybody else thinks the men are better, then you've already started at the wrong foot. I would say let's not worry about who's better or worse. Let's worry about who are you? What are you good at? Are you leveraging your strengths? Are you bringing the best version of you to every sales opportunity that you have? And if you're doing that, everything else will happen. Don't worry about that. There will always be noise. There will be things people will say. They will judge you. They will label you. They will belittle you. One part of being in sales is you're used to this, right? I have a 75% failure rate. This is what sales has taught me. I
Yes,
fail 75% of the time for everything I do. But you know what? I try 100% of the time. When I'm trying, I'm not thinking this time I'm going to fail. And it's okay. We win some, we lose some. So I would say think about that. Just my two
yes,
bits to it.
absolutely. The mindset with which you approach selling and the mindset with which you approach your own contributions and value is extremely important. So, Pritha, would you like to add anything here?
I
Yeah.
completely agree with Priya's point because it is completely on how you think of yourself. Do you also perceive that men are better salespeople? And I'll just repeat what I said: be emotionally intelligent. Don't get so emotionally attached to what is happening around you, and focus on what you are doing. Focus on everything that. Focus on your potential. Ask yourself, have you been performing to the best of your potential? Have you given everything? Are you doing everything that you should be doing? um, you cannot control things that are outside your circle of influence. You can't do that. So identify what are within your circle of influence and work only on that, only on your locus of control. That is the only thing you can control. You cannot control anything outside of that. So and within your locus of control is your will, your confidence, your skills, your mindset, your aspirations, your ambitions. Everything related to you is in your locus of control. So focus on yourself, chin up, do your work, feel very proud. You're the only woman. Come on. You
Absolutely.
should
And
be
we're all there.
celebrating. You
We're
should be
all there cheering.
celebrating yourself, Mansi. You are the only women in your organization in the India region. Walk with your head held high, with full on attitude ke saath do your walk. Every day should be a catwalk into your office. Feel very proud of your position. You have earned it, and you are becoming a role model for many other women to follow suit into your organization. Your organization is looking up to you. You do it, your organization. So please feel very proud, and you have good responsibility. We are going to have our eyes on you, and through you, we want to see many more women entering your organization. Chin up, and feel very proud of yourself. Pat yourself on the back, and feel very happy about what you have achieved.
Absolutely. So we are all there cheering for you and there to support you, Mansi. You're not alone here. And just one line I'd like to end with: when you doubt your power, you give power to your doubts. So don't doubt your power, believe in yourself. and believe that you deserve success. Once your self belief is so strong, you will be unstoppable. So, this is my message to you and to all the women out there, that your self belief should be stronger than your fear of failure. And that is the time when you will become unstoppable, and success will definitely follow you. So, on this note, I would like to thank Vidphone, Ayushree, and both our wonderful speakers here, Priya and Pritha, for taking the time out to join us today for inspiring our women in sales. Thank you to all the listeners and viewers for your questions and your time, and see you in another episode. We'll be coming back soon with more guests and more inspiring speakers. Ayushree, any
Yes.
last words?
Yes, thank you so much, Preeta, Priya, and Chitra. This has been a wonderful conversation to hear and be a part of, and we can see the comments pouring in. Vidya says, "Thanks, Priya. She really needed this today." Great thoughts, everyone. Very grateful. Thanks, Mansi. Thank you, Bhaskar. Thank you, Bala, for constantly, interacting and giving your inputs in the session. For just a quick thing, we have Jagat, the founder of Vidphone. He just wanted to come and say hi to everyone. And
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Okay. Super awesome. I mean, thanks so much, Chitra and Ayushree, putting this together, Women in Sales. Hello to Preeta and Priya as well. Happy to meet. I'm really looking forward. I learned a lot in this session, and I hope that, it's a great thing for me as well. I think the men also can take away a lot from the sales. Again, thanks to the audience. Thanks to, everyone who's here. And I think Ayushree is having some network issue. Ayushree, you there?
She is electricity issue, I assume.
Possible.
Right.
All
So,
right. Over to you, Chitra. You can close it off.
yeah, we are at
Just
the
want to
fag
thank
end
you.
anyway. So thank you once again, and see you at the next episode. And we'll be
Fantastic.
announcing that very soon, and more interesting speakers coming up. So stay with us. Bye bye, and good
Bye bye.
night. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.